It was a quiet, sun-drenched morning in a suburban Florida neighborhood, a place where families gathered at church and kids played in the front yards. To the outside world, everything appeared normal. But behind the doors of a luxury home, a storm was brewing, one fueled by betrayal, jealousy, and a deadly thirst for revenge. In the stillness of that day, one man's life would be shattered, and another would be violently stolen away. What seemed like a typical marriage gone wrong would soon evolve into a twisted tale of infidelity, manipulation, and a brutal crime that shocked the community. This is the story of Camilo Salazar, Jenny Marin, and the terrifying lengths one man would go to reclaim what he believed was rightfully his. Jenny Marin shared a gripping testimony about her turbulent past, an unhappy marriage that led her to seek comfort in an old friend. She never imagined her choices would set off a tragic chain of events. Camilo Salazar was born in April 1968 in Colombia, the son of Eduardo and Maria Inez Salazar. He grew up in a close-knit family alongside his sister, Carolina. Eventually, the Salazars relocated to the United States, settling in Florida, where Eduardo built a successful career in real estate. Camilo embraced every opportunity to learn, ultimately earning a university degree before launching his own interior design business. Known for his kindness and strong work ethic, Camilo had a deep love for sports, outdoor activities, and the ocean. In his youth, he became a world champion in ultimate frisbee, a passion that brought him both accolades and friendships, leading to travels around the world. When he was ready to start a family, he married Daisy Holcomb, an event planner. The couple built a life together in a modest Miami neighborhood, welcoming their first daughter, Ava, followed by their second, Skylar, in 2011. They were respected members of their community. The Salazar family was actively involved in St. Stephen's Episcopal Church, often volunteering for events and fundraisers. Camilo was admired as a devoted husband, loving father, and loyal friend. By May 2011, he and Daisy were adjusting to life with their newborn, balancing their demanding schedules. Camilo managing multiple businesses while Daisy continued her event planning career. Despite their busy lives, they worked seamlessly as partners, appearing to those around them as a thriving family with a promising future. That illusion shattered on Wednesday, June 1st, 2011. The day began as usual, with Daisy heading to work while Camilo got Ava ready for school and prepared to drop Skylar off at Daisy's office. He arrived as planned, handed the baby to his wife, kissed her goodbye, and promised to return soon. But he never did. As hours passed with no word from him, Daisy's concern grew. She reached out to friends and family who joined the search. His truck was eventually found abandoned near his office, its driver's window rolled down. Fearing the worst, Daisy reported Camilo missing to the Miami-Dade police. Authorities launched an immediate investigation, scouring surveillance footage but finding no leads. Later that day, firefighters responded to a blaze near the Everglades. What they discovered was horrifying: a burned human body. The victim, a man with bound wrists and severe injuries, was soon identified as Camilo Salazar. The devastating news sent shockwaves through his family and friends, who struggled to comprehend why anyone would harm such a well-loved man. As detectives dug deeper, they uncovered a shocking truth. Camilo had been entangled in an extramarital affair with Jenny Patricia Marin, a married woman. Her husband, Manuel Marin, was a prominent Miami businessman. As investigators unraveled the details, they began to suspect that Camilo's murder was not a random act of violence, but a calculated crime of passion, one that exposed a tangled web of betrayal and secrets, forever altering the lives of those involved. Manuel Marin's business empire had flourished, expanding across multiple states, including New Jersey. It was there, following his divorce from his first wife, Maria, that he first met Jenny Patricia Marin. Though their initial relationship remained casual, fate brought them back together years later. Despite a 20-year age gap, Manuel pursued Jenny once again, sweeping her off her feet with a dazzling diamond ring and a grand marriage proposal. Their wedding was an extravagant affair, reminiscent of celebrity nuptials. After tying the knot, the couple enjoyed a brief stay in a luxurious beachfront penthouse before settling into a sprawling waterfront estate in Lighthouse Point. Their opulent lifestyle included chauffeurs, household staff, and every luxury money could buy. Together they had 2 children who were raised in privilege, attending elite private schools and traveling on lavish vacations to exotic destinations. Outwardly, Jenny seemed to have an enviable life, yet beneath the surface she felt increasingly isolated and alone. With no career and few close friends, Jenny found solace primarily in her children. Meanwhile, Manuel's frequent absences and emotional detachment created a widening rift between them. By 2008, shortly after the birth of their youngest child, Jenny's stagnant existence took an unexpected turn. An email from an old friend, Camilo Salazar, arrived in her inbox, a simple message checking in on her well-being. That small gesture sparked something in Jenny, and she soon rekindled her friendship with Camilo. At first, their exchanges were innocent, though some sources suggest Camilo claimed to be divorced. As their connection deepened, he became her confidant, someone she could lean on. Though they had no initial plans for a romantic relationship, their emotional bond inevitably turned into a full-fledged affair by 2010. To keep their relationship secret, Jenny purchased a disposable phone to communicate with Camilo. They met in secret, often rendezvousing at a shopping mall where he would pick her up before driving to a hotel for private moments together. Their connection only grew stronger, yet Jenny maintained she had no intention of leaving Manuel, citing his role as a devoted father. In February 2011, their secret unraveled. Manuel, then 64, discovered the affair in a dramatic confrontation. The moment unfolded in a bakery in southern Miami-Dade, where Jenny and Camilo were waiting in line. Without warning, Manuel appeared, his expression shifting between anger and a knowing smirk. He confronted Jenny and forcibly led her to his car, seizing her phone and keys. As he drove, he demanded details about Camilo, yelling and berating her. In a desperate bid for freedom, Jenny managed to escape, jumping out of the car and hailing a taxi home. Once safe, she used her secret phone to call Camilo, who described his own tense encounter with Manuel outside the bakery. Following this explosive incident, Manuel's behavior grew increasingly controlling. He monitored Jenny's calls, scrutinized her every move, and kept a tight grip on her activities. Fearful of further conflict, Jenny and Camilo cut off contact for nearly a month. But the damage was done. Manuel's trust was shattered, his resentment festering into something far more dangerous. By late May 2011, tension in the Marin household was unmistakable. Despite this, Manuel planned a family yacht trip to the Bimini Islands in the Bahamas. Jenny later described the trip as deeply unsettling, noting her husband's cryptic and ominous behavior. At one point, Manuel issued a chilling warning, telling Jenny to stop what she was doing or risk causing a disaster. He provided no further explanation, and she chose not to press for details. Unlike previous vacations, he remained glued to his phone, frequently stepping away to take private calls. The trip ended on June 1, 2011, when the family returned to their Lighthouse Point home. That same day, Camilo was reported missing. Hours later, his burned body was discovered. Unaware of the tragedy, Jenny continued trying to contact Camilo in the following days, but received no response. Meanwhile, Manuel vanished abruptly, taking his passport with him. As her unease grew, Jenny sought legal counsel. When her attorney searched Camilo's name online, the horrifying truth emerged. Camilo had been brutally murdered. It was at that moment that Jenny learned of his fate. Convinced that Manuel was involved, she began to suspect that their family trip had been a carefully orchestrated alibi. Her suspicions deepened when she learned that Manuel had fled to Europe shortly after the crime. Not long after his disappearance, Manuel's son, who held power of attorney over his father's affairs, finalized the divorce. Jenny retained the luxurious home they had shared and was granted $10,000 per month in child support for their 2 young children. Though Manuel called Jenny several times to apologize for abandoning his family, he never admitted any involvement in Camilo's murder. While the investigation into Camilo's death appeared to stall, detectives continued working behind the scenes. Believing that Manuel had the strongest motive for the crime, they began scrutinizing his connections and movements. Their findings revealed that Manuel had fled to Spain, where one of his children lived, and had been making frequent trips to Cuba. In March 2018, Jenny even traveled to Cuba with her children to meet their father. However, she later claimed she never asked him about what had happened to Camilo. That same year, Manuel's son was arrested in Miami-Dade for allegedly providing financial support to his fugitive father. At just 32 years old, he was released on a $200,000 bond. Meanwhile, investigators uncovered crucial evidence linking Manuel to at least 3 accomplices in his elaborate revenge plot. Records indicated that he had recruited men he met through his deep involvement in combat sports, a revelation that brought detectives one step closer to unraveling the full extent of his plan. The suspects were identified as Alexis Villa-Perdomo, a martial arts expert, Ariel Gandula, a former mixed martial artist, and Roberto Isaac, a fight promoter with alleged gang ties. Alexis, a 1996 Olympic bronze medalist, had defected from the Cuban team the following year. After working briefly as a university coach in Michigan, he was imprisoned in 2004 for driving his car into a terminal at Fort Lauderdale-Hollywood International Airport, leading to terrorism charges. Despite claiming it was an accident, he served 3 years in prison before transitioning to a career in mixed martial arts, where he amassed a record of 15 wins and 7 losses. Although Alexis was in Las Vegas for a fight during Camilo's abduction, investigators uncovered extensive communication between him, Manuel, Ariel, and Roberto. Authorities believed Alexis had orchestrated the fatal attack. Both Alexis and Roberto were arrested, but Ariel fled to Vancouver, Canada, where he remained in hiding for over 5 years. In his eventual testimony, Ariel admitted to being present when Camilo was abducted, but claimed he fled upon realizing the group's violent intent. His account was later corroborated by cell phone location data. Initially, prosecutors had only circumstantial evidence, making a trial risky. That changed in 2018 when Ariel agreed to return to the United States under a plea deal, testifying against the others in exchange for leniency. Then, on August 16, 2018, a breakthrough occurred. After 7 years on the run, Manuel Marin was captured in Madrid. He had attempted to enter the U.S. Embassy for a passport-related matter, but his nervous demeanor raised suspicion among Spanish police. A check of his expired visa and international arrest warrant led to his immediate detention. Following Manuel's arrest, the supermarket chain he had founded quickly distanced itself from him, issuing a statement clarifying that his son, Yadiel, held only a minority stake in some locations and that Manuel had been unaffiliated with the business since 2011. He was later extradited to the United States, where he remained imprisoned while awaiting trial. Manuel first appeared in court on November 20, 2018, but the trial faced numerous delays. Initially scheduled for July 9, 2019, proceedings were repeatedly postponed, with further setbacks caused by the global health crisis in 2020. By late 2019, the first to face justice were Alexis Villa-Perdomo, Roberto Isaac, and Ariel Gandula. They stood trial for charges including murder, kidnapping, and conspiracy. Ariel, in exchange for a reduced sentence, became the prosecution's key witness. Jenny also testified, offering emotional insight into her relationship with Camilo and the fallout when Manuel discovered their affair. Among the spectators was Camilo's widow, Daisy, who later delivered a powerful courtroom statement. During the trial, it was revealed that Manuel had sponsored Alexis, who in turn recruited Roberto and Ariel to carry out the brutal attack. A pivotal moment came when a cell phone geolocation expert testified, linking Manuel and Roberto's phones to a location near where Camilo's body was discovered. In December 2019, after 8 days of testimony and just 2 hours of deliberation, the jury returned a verdict. Roberto was found guilty of second-degree murder and conspiracy to commit kidnapping, receiving a life sentence. Alexis was convicted of conspiracy to commit kidnapping and murder, resulting in a 15-year prison sentence. Thanks to his plea deal, Ariel was sentenced to 36 months in prison and released in April 2022. Meanwhile, the long-awaited trial of Manuel Marin began in March 2023. Now, 69 years old, he faced charges for orchestrating the brutal murder of Camilo Salazar, his wife's lover. Despite pleading not guilty and refusing to testify, the evidence against him was overwhelming. A key witness, a geolocation expert, demonstrated that Manuel's phone had pinged a cell tower near the crime scene. Ariel's testimony was equally damning. He described Camilo's abduction in chilling detail and claimed he saw Manuel at the scene, seated in his blue Mercedes-Benz. Jenny corroborated parts of Ariel's account, recalling how Manuel had abruptly left their home on June 1, 2011, under the pretense of urgent business. Prosecutors argued that by then, Camilo was already in Manuel's custody, awaiting his tragic fate. A forensic expert painted a gruesome picture of the crime. Camilo had suffered a fractured jaw and skull before his throat was cut, and worst of all, he was set on fire while still alive. Though Manuel was initially charged with second-degree murder, prosecutors struggled to prove his direct involvement in the assault. Instead, in May 2023, nearly 12 years after the murder, the jury found him guilty of involuntary manslaughter, criminal conspiracy, and kidnapping. During the sentencing hearing on May 22nd, Camilo's widow, Daisy, delivered an emotional impact statement, condemning Manuel for robbing her daughters of their father and shattering their lives. The court sentenced him to life in prison for kidnapping, 30 years for involuntary manslaughter, and 15 years for conspiracy. While Camilo's loved ones found some relief in the verdict, they acknowledged that no sentence could ever bring him back. Beyond the criminal trial, Daisy filed a civil lawsuit against Manuel and his family, seeking damages for the devastation they endured. The outcome of the lawsuit remains uncertain, as does the legal case against Manuel's son, Yadiel, for allegedly aiding his father's escape. Now imprisoned at Metro West Detention Center, Manuel spends his remaining years behind bars. Meanwhile, Jenny and her children have withdrawn from the public eye. But the scars of this tragedy remain. As the courtroom doors closed, so too did the chapter on a tragedy that had left so many lives in tatters. Manuel Marin was sentenced to life in prison, his years of wealth and power stripped away by the brutal consequences of his actions. Yet for Camilo's family, justice, though hard-won, could never fill the void of his absence. Daisy, with unwavering strength, had fought for her daughter's future, but the scars of that fateful day would remain etched into their lives forever. Jenny, too, faced the aftermath of her choices. Her once charismatic life was now a haunting reminder of the dangerous web she had woven. While she and her children sought solace in silence, the world moved on, though the echoes of their pain still reverberated. In the end, the true cost of infidelity, betrayal, and revenge was not just one life lost, but the destruction of families, the collapse of trust, and the breaking of hearts. No amount of time would ever heal the wounds left behind. For all involved, the lesson was painfully clear. Some decisions can never be undone, and some tragedies, no matter the verdict, will forever cast a shadow over the lives they touch.